So I'll just do this. I'll speak. I have a few slides. I never do, but I decided to put some together because I got many reminders. Um, those of you who know me, I'm not terribly good at responding to email. Okay, so you know that. That's a New Year resolution that I've made many times over, like lots of you. Maybe at least 6 times I've done this and I failed again. So let's talk about New Year resolutions. You know, that's what it is that I promised I'll talk about. So we're going to talk about that. So let me give you a few examples. You know, let's just begin with a few examples. Get your head around how it is that our best kind of plans that we make, we fail to execute these plans. So we have some goals. You know, so we have at the end of this year, I am going to be of a certain weight. At the end of this year, I am going to be quitting smoking. At the end of the year, I'm going to be doing a little less drinking and so on. And at the end of the year, I am actually going to be responding to emails. You know, so this kind of goals that you have in your head, what happens? So let me illustrate with an example. An example actually of today. You know, so for me, so I have a deadline. You know, today I have a deadline where I only work with deadlines. I deliver on the deadline. I don't deliver before then. So I have this deadline. I have to write a paper. I have to write a letter for someone who's coming up for tenure in some school, and I need to do it today. And it would take me roughly about a day to put together a proper letter. And when I say a day, it would require about like 5-6 hours of really concentrated work for me to get to do that. I thought I'll begin this morning, you know, so I'll begin at about 9 o'clock, but then I had this. I thought I'll come in here at 10 o'clock, but I decided to wander in at 9:30 itself rather than wait till 10 o'clock. So I have postponed starting on this particular project, right? So I have postponed this. Now as I'm wandering back to my office, after this, I will meet a few people that I'll be interested in, and I will talk to them, you know, so that's me, so I'm going to do that. By the time I get to my office, it's time for my next appointment. There is a talk by Dan Cable. I'll go to the talk. So come 12:30, I haven't begun on writing a letter that I need 6 hours to write. So what am I going to do? Around 12:30, I'll say, the day is short anyways, so who the hell cares? You know, so so that's going to be, you know, so I'm predicting this is what is it that's going to happen. So it's not just me, okay? So it's not just me. So think about yourself. So you had a plan. And if you have a plan about visiting the gym, let's say, you know, so you made this like completely unrealistic plan that I'm going to go 5 days a week. It's Wednesday. You've already missed 2 days. So you say, you know, really, I'm not going to meet this goal of 5 days. So who the hell cares? You know, so I'm going to give up. I'm not going to go to the gym at all. So this is something that you might think that I'm just making this up. You know, so I'm making this up. But there are some serious psychologists out there who study this, okay? And it's called, in psychology, this is called the what the hell effect, okay? So, and let me tell you what the hell effect is. So it's really about people who have, and that's like, you know, the real irony about this effect is so let me describe a study to you with some poetic license, okay? So I'm just going to use some poetic license. I'm not going to tell you the study in its entirety. So let's assume they bring two groups of people into the laboratory. One group of people who are the people self-confessed dieters, you know, so these are people who've decided that they are going to diet, and they brought these people into the laboratory. And the other are like people who like say, no, I eat anything, it really doesn't matter to me, you know, so these are the two sets of people that they bring into the laboratory. They make them hungry. So psychologists, you know, they tend to be, when we run experiments, we tend to be kind of nutty, kind of mean to people. So these are people, they bring them in, they keep them hungry, really hungry. And once they bring them in, and they ask them to be hungry when they come, so these guys come in, then they make people, both sets of people, the dieters and the non-dieters, they give them like, you know, some really unhealthy milkshakes or something like that. Milkshakes, by the way, are not healthy, please. I mean, just a quick thing. So they give them these unhealthy milkshakes. And both of them drink two, like, you know, really large milkshakes. And then they tell them that there is now a cookie tasting study. You know, we gave you the milkshake to satiate your hunger and so on, but that's okay now. So now we are actually, the real purpose of the experiment is tasting of these cookies. And then they compare these two sets of people just to see how many cookies that they've eaten. you would make the assumption that it will be the dieters having had their 2 milkshakes and now looking at these cookies and they say, okay, I'm not going to eat these cookies anymore. This is not what I'm going to do. The non-dieters, on the other hand, don't care. So I've had 2 milkshakes, I'll eat 4 cookies, it really doesn't matter to me. It turns out it's the dieters who actually eat more cookies. So that's the irony here. It's the people who have that chronic goal in their head that I must be dieting, this is something that I must be doing, who actually eat these extra and eat a lot more cookies. So, and that's like a demonstration of what the hell effect. There was a goal that they had in mind. This is it that I'm going to be doing. There's a budget. I can eat only so much. I can only spend so much. That's what it is. But the minute that budget is short, the goal is short, then anything goes after that. For these people, anything. So they can do anything. So it's gone. This was my goal. I failed to achieve my goal. So now it's a boomerang. And I eat a lot more unhealthily. I spend a lot more and so on. So this is the problem with goals, the kind of goals that you have. And when it's chronically, it's available, and you fail to achieve these goals, then you have this kind of an effect which we refer to as the what the hell effect. So now that people know this about themselves, supposedly, this people about themselves, why do people still set goals? That's the kind of interesting thing. So I did a little bit of research, again, please don't hold me to these numbers that I'm going to throw out for you. Because when I say a little bit of research, I went and I looked up at the most recently, these unscientific surveys that they did, and the website that I went to was the Daily Mail, which is not a great website to go to. Okay, so, but anyway, so let's put out those numbers to you as though they are meaningful numbers. Okay, so this is what it is. According to them, there was a survey that was done by the Cancer Society, which surveyed people like how many of you are going to have like New Year goals and so on. So these kind of things. So roughly 50% of the people who answered the survey said, yes, I'm going to have these goals. This is the kind of goals that I have. So 50% of the population on average, that's the claim, make these kind of goals. They do this. About 40% of this 50%, they give up on their goals 2 weeks into the new year. So they've made this resolution, but 40% of them give up in 2 weeks. Only 10% of them are still trying to achieve their goals 6 months down the line. So it's only 10% of them that are doing that. And on average, people repeat the goals for at least 6 years before they abandon them. So it's interesting. So you think about it, right? So we don't learn. We have these goals, we fail to achieve these goals, but then we say, I don't want to abandon them. And why is that? So psychologists have names for everything else. So the reason for that is something that we refer to and we call the planning fallacy. So yes, I know the last 3 times it didn't work, but this time it's going to be different. So this is what the planning fallacy is all about. So how is this? So it actually, the first kind of the first evidence of the planning fallacy came about in people's unrealistic ambitions about how much time it would take to finish a particular project. So you look at it and you say, everyone says it's going to take 10 days, but I'm so good, I can do it in 5 days. So this is what it is. Or everyone says, whatever the time it is that is there. You point out to them, but the last 10 times you did it, it took you also 10 days, and maybe it took you even 15 days. Say yes. However, for each one of those days, these times when I failed, I can give you an explanation for why it is that it failed. This time it's going to be different. So this is what it is. So I know I had this in my head. I was very, very, very clear in my head that I'm going to drink less in the coming year. I had it in my head. But guess what? In January, this hugely stressful event happened in my life. My friend who's very, very close to me and was also very close to her cat died. So and then I needed to spend a huge amount of time consoling this person, and we had to do it in the pub all the time. So it's not going to happen again, because this year I have made it a point not to be friends with people who have cats. So these are the kind of rationalizations that we can, so we can come up with. But the whole point is that we don't change the circumstances and instead think that this time is going to be different because I do understand why it is that I failed the previous time. So I have that kind of an understanding. So the planning fallacy, along with the what the hell effect, explains 2 things. So one, why is it that we go around setting goals, and why is it that we fail to achieve the goals that we have set for ourselves? So, so we need a few things because Isabel has given you a few takeaways. What is it that you need to do? So here is what we have, so let's look at this. So what is this? What are these things? Make realistic resolutions, so make it. And there are some things that you have to acknowledge at some point in time you can't do, so these are things that you just have to. So for those of you who are expecting an email back from me, I'm not making the resolution anymore. Okay, so I'm done. I'm done. I just can't do it. So make realistic resolutions. Visit the gym once a week, for example. Build a safety wall. Don't be too hard on yourself. So do it. So give yourself like some indulgences. Build that in. So instead of no sugar whatsoever, say I'm going to eat sugar only if I think that that dessert is really, really good. So think about it. Make yourself some kind of like achievable, so some kind of achievable ones, and also build these kind of safety walls. Also forgive yourself minor lapses, so we are bound to fall off the wagon. This is going to happen. It is going to happen. But when it happens, we need to try to get back on it as quickly as possible. We don't need to be thinking about what is psychologically so easy for us, which is, what the hell, who cares? So I'm done, let me start next week. On the other hand, don't make resolutions. So I'll stop here. Thank you.